when you build a financial model, what is important to you? How do you go about building that? What I really would like to hear in the beginning, that is that you separate input, output, and calculations. If you don't have that, then you're probably not that skilled.
Agreed, right? I mean, the model is nothing but a tool. And in this case, it's a means to helping them accomplish the transaction they're seeking. And, a bad model can kill a deal if the numbers don't make sense.
Exactly.
That's awesome. I would love to know, what benefits have you seen? What comments have you heard from the team now that everybody passed?
First of all, I would say
Morten Lykke Pedersen, CFA, CFM, is a partner at Deloitte and head of financial modeling in strategy, risk, and transaction advisory. With over 10 years of experience in M&A, valuation, and risk, he helps companies make data-driven decisions through advanced modeling. His career includes leadership roles at PDRC and Jyske Bank.
Any advice you'd offer to someone who might be listening who's either considering taking the CFM or currently studying for it? What advice would you give them?
The CFM is a comprehensive accreditation to get through. So make sure you have enough time. Make sure that you front-end load your work, because you cannot really catch up in the end, and make sure that you have enough time to review everything.
What's your favorite Excel shortcut? What's that one you're going to tell us about?
Yeah, see, that's actually a difficult question, because, to me,
Financial Modelers Corner is the world's premier modeling podcast. It is brought to you by Financial Modeling Institute, the world's leading financial modeling accreditation organization. Welcome to Financial Modelers Corner. I am your host, Paul Barnhurst, aka the FP&A guy. And this is a podcast where we talk all about the art and science of financial modeling with distinguished modelers from around the globe. The Financial Modelers Corner podcast is brought to you by the Financial Modeling Institute. FMI offers the most respected accreditations in financial modeling, and that's why I completed the Advanced Financial Modeler and am such a big fan of the program. I am thrilled today to welcome on the show Morten Lykke Pedersen. Morten, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Paul. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, really excited to have you. I know we touched base a few months ago and talked about doing a show, and modeling got in the way for a little while, but we were able to make it happen. So I'm thrilled to have you today.
Thank you. And I actually like your introduction about the FMI and the training that they do, because I'm a very big fan of it. But we're probably gonna dig into that.
Yeah, we'll definitely dig into that. I know you and I talk quite a bit about that. I'm really excited for you to share, some of the things you've seen. So I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit of your background here. So Morten is a CFA and a CFM, a seasoned financial expert and a partner at Deloitte, where he leads as head of financial modeling within the strategy, risk, and transaction advisory division. With over a decade of experience, Morten specializes in mergers and acquisitions, M&A, offering strategic insights to empower businesses to make informed, data-driven decisions. His proficiency in advanced financial modeling allows companies to optimize their strategies through precise forecasting and risk assessment, fortifying profitability and competitive positioning. Morten's career spans notable leadership roles, including his tenure at PwC, where he managed valuation and modeling services. His background in foreign exchange analysis at Jyske Bank and strategic consultancy further underscores his multifaceted expertise. Holding a CFA charter and certifications in financial modeling, Morten's educational journey includes advanced degrees from Aarhus University and St. Mary's University and the CFA Institute. Morten is dedicated to guiding businesses in navigating industry dynamics and executing transformative transactions successfully. Love the background. So you probably know this is coming. We start every episode with this question. Tell me that horror story. Worst model you built, you worked with, you've seen. I'm sure you have some kind of story.
We all have, and I guess there have been many across my career, and I think I'm probably gonna go back to when I was quite early in my career. When you have that model, you take over from another person where you need to adapt and adjust, and you just end up with that nine-headed dragon of a monster model that no one really knows what goes on in there. Didn't have the experience to actually do that at that point, didn't have the formal training. We managed to do the analysis we did and ended up with a happy client in the end. But it's still one of those models where I really would have liked to have more experience that I had at that point in time.
Yeah, well, at least a good story in the sense that you're able to get it across the line with the client. But yeah, anytime you inherit somebody else's model, it's always dicey, and doubly dicey if you don't know what they're doing. Which there's usually almost always one area where you're kind of like, what's going on? Sometimes you just open the file and you wonder what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm curious, this is a question we've recently started asking. We ask each guest, if I was to ask you how you define what is a financial model, how would you do that? How do you think about that?
Well, I look at a financial model as a strategic tool that is really used by the company or the advisors to present the business or the target's business. In my case, it's a structured presentation showing the equity story, the financial performance based on various assumptions on market, customers, profitability, and so forth. So it's really how does the company, how is that expected to develop in the future? That's how I would define it.
Great. I appreciate that. I always love to see the little different nuances everybody has on them. So, I want to start here. You have quite a bit of experience on the transactional side of the business. It looks that's kind of where you carved out a lot of your career. What is it you like about transactional modeling? Why has your focus been there?
I probably, in the beginning, it was all about building the models and helping the clients. But as I progressed in my career, it has become more and more about helping clients, the people that I work with, because many of them are in potential life-changing positions. If they build a company throughout their life and they want to sell that to someone else, they go from being just regular people to being perhaps very, very wealthy people, and that is life-changing. Having those discussions about them, about the passion for the business, having the commercial discussions, how to present the business in the best way, and then of course also building the financial model in the end. That's also very, very interesting to do that.
So it sounds like, which I'm not surprised by early on, a lot of fun and excitement in building that model. But as you've worked more and more with the clients, that's kind of come the passion is really helping them see their successful conclusion, exit, merger, whatever that might be.
But that is really where you create value to the clients that we work with. It is not the fact that we are building a financial model. It's the fact that we are co-developing together with them, collaborating with them, and building something that they can use to get further in their life or wherever they want to go.
Agreed, right? I mean, a model is nothing but a tool. And in this case, it's a means to helping them accomplish the transaction they're seeking.
Exactly.
And, a bad model can kill a deal. If the numbers don't make sense and a lot of other things, it can have a huge impact.
It can for sure kill the deal. And I've also seen lack of collaboration between advisors, not necessarily kill the deal, but it's become a less optimal kind of a deal. So that's actually also one of the things I really enjoy when I do transaction modeling. That is to have that, like being that centerpiece, having everything knit together. So we have that stellar product that we can go out with to potential acquirers of the company. I really enjoy that, working together with the diligence advisors, legal advisors, the company management, and so forth.
Kind of speaking about that process, how do you ensure as you're doing the model, you're going through that whole process, you keep client engagement and kind of, everything on the same page, so to speak? How do you think about that? Because I think sometimes it's easy, especially early in the career, to just get caught up in the model and forget a little bit about making sure the client's engaged and you're on the same page.
Yeah, we actually spend a lot of time, especially in the beginning of the model build process, engaging with the client. We spend quite a bit of time on actually not doing the financial model. We spend a lot of time on PowerPointing, structuring the financial model, having a discussion with the lead M&A advisor, the management, the owners. how do we want to present this? How can we make sure that if we want to go this route, looking at these customers or these end markets, how can we support that with data? And of course, also having a discussion with the due diligence advisors on what kind of data is actually recorded, because you want to make sure that you can show that everything links together, the past, the current, and the future as well. So it's really about having that discussion in the beginning, and then of course having ongoing discussions with the clients on how does it look like if we do this or that instead. And I'm not talking if we use this and that formula, because most C-suite people don't really care. I mean, my key goal is to make sure that our clients knows exactly what goes on in the financial model without actually opening it.
Yeah, nobody's ever seen a model or a deal fall apart because somebody chose to use VLOOKUP over index match. I mean, nobody cares. I heard a really good example of how you kind of mentioned, this is a exercise in business. Just the other day we were talking about budgeting and forecasting, because FP&A is my experience. They said, if all you're doing is a math exercise, you might as well just stop. Because you're just kind of wasting everybody's time, was the idea. Like, that's not the goal here. Isn't a math exercise. Yes, you can get a budget and could even be right, but you didn't really accomplish anything. It sounds, kind of similar in these M&A. It's a lot about the planning and the conversations. The model is an outgrowth of that, but without all that, it's just a math exercise.
I fully agree, Paul. And in our experience, it's one thing you could be certain of is that you can do the best forecast that you do, but you're probably not gonna hit it like it's gonna turn out in the future, or you're not for sure. So what we tend to do is build a lot of scenarios around the future and see it's something like this. And these are the most likely scenarios. How can we make sure that the business is prepared to take care of something if some risk suddenly arises? So fully agree.
Yeah, and I imagine you're doing a lot of scenarios, comparables, multiples, all kind of different things, because right, there's not a right answer to how much a company's worth.
No.
There's an estimate, and then there's different opinions.
Yeah. That's actually where I really like that I also have a valuation background, because that really helps when you prepare that financial model. How do you want to present the case so it looks like you have very much control about what's happening in the business, having control of those risks. I mean, you cannot run a business without risk. That's just how it is. But what investors really would like to see is that the management know about the risk and how to handle those risks. And if you can get that into the model, then you're in a very good place.
Agreed. And kind of speaking to that, I know a big part of is you're building those models and working on the transactions is you have to tell a story around the value of the company, what there's equity's worth, why it's something somebody wants as a going concern, right? Not just the values there today, but what am I going to get out of it in the future? How do you go about sharing that story? Kind of how do you think about, going from all those conversations and modeling to make sure that story is conveyed?
Well, first of all, you need to align with the different stakeholders, and that is, of course, the owners of the company, the management, and the lead advisor, also the due diligence advisor. You need to make sure that everybody is aligned on how that story is going to look like. From a modeling or technical perspective, if you want to take it like that, you need to look at the targets, customers, what kind of end markets do they have, how is the growth expected in the different end markets, and of course, combine that with the strategy that the company is actually following. Do they have certain initiatives or options, strategic options they are looking to deliver on? How does the profitability look like? And can we show this data, this entire equity story with the available data? And that goes back to the fact that you can create a very, very good forecast, but if you don't have historical data to back that up, then it's going to be a difficult story to tell.
Sure. It becomes much harder to tell the story and have others find it believable with without hard data to support it. I don't want to say nothing, because there's other work you do and assumptions, but they're much easier to poke holes in.
Yeah, and of course, when you look into the future, and that is what you do with a financial model in my line of work, then it's all based on assumptions. but the more you can kind of like support those assumptions with historical data or having a market outlooks or something like that, it creates a more credible story about the business.
Totally agree. I had a professor in college, Professor Gallagher, and he was really big on every exercise we did. We had to do a complete five forces analysis, Porter's five forces on the company. And he spent more time about the write-up and wanting us to understand the business. He didn't so much care about the assumptions we used, as long as he could see we thought about it and there was thought going into why we did what we did. And then he also, he graded the model and he wanted it to be right. He taught us good finance, but he drilled home that importance of really understanding what's going on. It's not just about the numbers. And I hated some of it at the time because it was a lot of work, but I really appreciate it as I look back now.
Yeah.
Can totally relate to what you're saying there. So I got to ask you this question. When it comes to building financial models, it seems like a lot of time on the team, the youngest person, the least experienced person is often building the model. Why is that? Why do you think we often end up, you don't generally see that? The lawyer on the deal is often very experienced, a lot of the others, but it seems to happen more often than not almost that, sometimes the least experienced modeler is often building the model.
Yeah, it's actually something we try not to do, because in my opinion, it takes not just a half a year of experience before you're proficient modelers. It actually takes years. It's not just 1 or 2 years. You need multiple years of training and practicing before you are proficient in doing financial models. The exact reason why the youngest guy end up with the financial model, and I see the same thing in different kinds of transactions, that is how it's going to play out. I don't actually think I have an answer for that because it's not what creates most value to the transaction. It's simply not.
And I appreciate that. I like that. I'm glad you don't try to do that because I know even, sometimes in FP&A, it was always a frustration of mine. You join a new company and they just kind of throw the model at you. There's no training. Investment banking, you're at least training everybody on how to build a model. A lot
Yeah.
of finance companies, and a lot of companies in FP&A, corporate finance, don't do that. And then you're building some awful models. I mean, we make mistakes in the beginning anyway, but if you don't have any training and you're just kind of trying to figure it out on your own, most people don't know best practice or where to get it.
And that's actually why I really like that we see more and more of those training options and accreditations out there in the market. We did not have that when I started out my career. I wouldn't say that everybody fumbled around, but I mean, you're very much depending on having someone senior on the team that could teach you how to do it. Now it's probably a bit easier because you could do that formal training and actually get to a pretty decent level using some of that training. FMI is a very good example of that.
Yeah, no, totally agree. There's a lot of great training resources out there. In a minute here, we'll get to FMI and kind of your experience because I know you've been using that with your team. But I'm curious. You've obviously interviewed a lot of people. Any advice on how do you determine if someone is a good modeler during the interview process? It's not like you can ask them to build an all-day model. I mean, I guess you can to take a day and build one, but it's probably not realistic for, the majority of us. So how do you think about that or try to ensure that they really have those skills?
It's really, really difficult to be quite honest. And I mean, as you've just mentioned yourself, Paul, you cannot ask someone in a 1 hour interview to build a financial model. You can, of course, ask them to credentials. What kind of training did they do? Do they have some kind of accreditation? And then, of course, I like to ask them, so when you build a financial model, what is important to you? How do you go about building that? And what I really would like to hear in the beginning, that is that you separate input, output, and calculations. If you don't have that somewhere, then you're probably not that skilled. So it's for sure some of those quite, I would say, basic things that we ask about. And then I look for passion. I look for a passion to the line of work that we do. I look for someone who has a structured and probably a mathematical mindset, because those, in my experience, are the easiest to train to do financial models. But they also need to have a commercial mindset. And that part is really, really important, Because if you really like to go into financial models, or you really like to write codes, but don't have an interest for the commercials, then you should probably not aim for a career in financial modeling in the way that we do financial models. Then you should probably go into coding instead. And that's totally fine, but you need to have that commercial mindset.
Totally understand. I know what you're talking about is, right, you got the people that just want to be technical, and there are great places for them. But if they need to be customer facing and have that commercial aspect and they don't want to do it, you're setting them up for failure if you need them to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Fully with you on that. I've seen that before, both sides of that. People that are commercial but don't have the technical skills, and they have the technical but not the commercial. It's tough sometimes to develop both. And kind of, speaking to that and that challenge, how do you think about building a modeling team to make sure you have the right capabilities, right? Because you're going to have, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and some are going to be stronger on commercial and stronger on modeling. And how do you think about that? You've had to build several teams over your career.
The foundation is the right people. You need to have the right people on the team. If you don't have any, then you need to hire the right people. And when you have the people on board, then you need to train people in the same way. So they start working and in the same way, structuring the financial models in the same way, having the same training, having the same practice, having the same way of thinking. Because then you kind of get around the fact that all modelers probably have their own style. But the more you can make that style similar, the better, the more efficient, the better client experience you can create when you do the financial models. And you can build the models in much less time.
Well, my background is in FP&A. I am also passionate about financial modeling. Like many financial modelers, I was self-taught. Then I discovered the Financial Modeling Institute, the organization that offers the Advanced Financial Modeler Program. I am a proud holder of the AFM. Preparing for the AFM exam made me a better modeler. If you want to improve your modeling skills, I recommend the AFM program. Podcast listeners save 15% on the AFM program. Just use code PODCAST. It's funny how often it comes back to hiring the right people. All right. So when you and I chatted, you mentioned, speaking of teams, your entire team completed the Chartered Financial Modeler, which is level 2 of FMI. Very involved test. I know it takes a long time. So can you talk about why you guys decided to do that, and just tell us a little bit about that experience, what it was like?
Let me start out with the why. And that is really because we want to be the best of the best. We want to make sure that we deliver stellar work every time. We wanted to take our entire team, not just one or two, to next level. So we decided to make the investment, and I'm not talking about cost here. I'm talking about time, because it is a time-consuming accreditation to achieve, and at much more demanding than the AFM. We took out that time and pushed through the team in that, and it was a great learning experience. It was a great team bonding experience across grades, because we were all in the same boat, whether your title was partner or whether it was associate. I mean, we all had to do the same work. We all had to do the same exercise. We all had to prepare in the same way and spend the same amount of time on actually preparing on this. So we kind of like aligned in some way, which we of course also try to do on a daily basis. But this was just different because it was in the spreadsheet kind of world. So it was a really, really enjoyable exercise experience for the entire team, where we learned quite a lot. I mean, our team is already seasoned modelers, but being able to build on that, and I would say you should probably be a quite experienced modeler before you dig into the CFM, and because it's a lot of time, and it's difficult. To be quite honest, it's not for everybody to do the CFM.
Are you trying to scare me off from taking it? I'm just kidding. When you first suggested the idea to the team, were they on board? Was there a lot of reservation? I'm just kind of curious, because I know it's a big time commitment, right? The cost is relatively minimal for as far as accreditations go. I'd say it's on the lower end from a cost perspective. But I know CFM is a big time commitment. So how was when it was suggested, was it hard to get everybody bought in, or they all think it was a great idea?
To be honest, I don't think it was a matter of time commitment from the team side, because I made sure that they were booked on projects, so it was actually possible to do that. I mean, if you work 100 hours a week, you're not going to put 25 hours on top of that. So you need to have a manageable workload, and also because it's not something you can prepare for in just a week. I think we spent 10 weeks or something like that, dividing all the work on those 10 weeks. So you need to make sure, and I needed to make sure that the team had manageable workload in that time period. Otherwise, it's simply not possible. I think the real concern to the team, and that actually also goes for the AFM, that is the fact that uh, people kind of think that they are on a test on whether they're good at that job or not. And thinking back to 2018 when I did the AFM, I had the same feeling. But it's not about that. It's really not. But I totally understand that that is the feeling that you as a person would sit with. So I think that was the concern, not the time commitment.
Sure. Yeah. I can say my concern, I did the AFM was I've announced this publicly. I host a podcast for, FMI. If I fail, what am I going to look like? So I can relate. And, CFM, I'm putting that on, so kind of put that on hold till next year. I was originally going to take it in October, but I've pushed it out a little bit. That's the same type of thing. It's like, okay, everybody publicly knows I said I'm going to take it. What happens if I fail? But I could definitely relate. I don't think it's the time. It's more the judgment, the concern. Well, what if I don't do as good as I thought I'm going to do? How are people going to perceive me?
Yeah, I actually did the exact opposite than you. I didn't announce this to anybody when I did the AFM. It was a bit more difficult to go below the radar when it came to the CFM, because we were a rather large team to do that. But luckily, we all got through the accreditation.
That's awesome. And I would love to know what benefits have you seen? What comments have you heard from the team now that everybody passed? Like, have they all found it beneficial and you're seeing improvement in modeling, or what's kind of been the results?
First of all, I would say the CFM to me and the team, and that goes for all the team members who did it. It's the best modeling training that we have done in our career. I as a partner, but also the younger guys and girls on the team. We learned so much from that. And I mean, some of it we already knew, but the level of detail you go through in the different structures, modules you need to build, and there are also some topics that even us as corporate finance advisors or modeling advisors that we do not do on a daily basis. It's not that often we do very advanced working capital schedules, but that was some of the stuff that we needed to do, and we can actually see already now how we can implement that. The way to do different kind of schedules, we can apply that in other settings. And we can see that already from the week after we did the accreditation. We put the new capabilities to work, and we actually delivered something that pretty sure we couldn't have done that efficient beforehand.
That's great to hear you saw the efficiency and it helped in areas, right? Because there's so many different areas to model. We all have stuff that we haven't done much. I always give the example till I started my own business 3.5 years ago, I had never built a three statement model for work. It was P&L, maybe a couple of balance sheet lines, some operational metrics and KPIs that you're forecasting, and you went on your way. I still remember, doing my first one for work and like, can I do this? But I built a lot of models, which is so different from your world because a three statement is, I'm sure, critical most of the time.
Yeah, it's actually funny when you mentioned the three statements. It's when I started out my career, when you do the corporate finance or valuations or modeling in general in our line of work, the three statements was not the standard. You did a P&L and approximate cash flows. That was it. But we kind of like moved into a different direction over the last decade or so, I would say. And now we're building, I wouldn't call it more advanced models, but more detailed models. And the reason why I say it like that is because the key thing you need to be aware of when you build financial models, that is not to make it complex. you really need to build the model as simple as possible. And you would, of course, like to be able to account for all kinds of dynamic functions and functionality, but you need to have a model that's fit for purpose. And that means that it needs to only do what it's supposed to do.
Great advice there, and I agree with you. So I want to ask one more question on the CFM, then we're going to get to some of our standard questions. We'll put you on the hot seat here in a minute, as we do with every guest. But any advice you'd offer to someone who might be listening who's either considering taking the CFM or currently studying for it? What advice would you give them?
The CFM is a comprehensive accreditation to get through. So make sure you have enough time. Make sure that you front end load your work, because you cannot really catch up in the end, and make sure that you have enough time to review everything, because as you work through all the cases, all the exercises that are that you can that are available to you, I mean, 6-7 weeks down the road, I mean, when you've been working with different topics for 4 or 5 weeks, you kind of forgot what you did like 6 or 8 weeks ago. So you need to be able to have enough time to kind of recap what you did.
Sure, because I know this study, they have cases for each of the different sections. So yeah, if you did revenue in week 1 and now you're doing the other one in week 9 and you're taking it in week 10, it might be a challenge. You might want a couple weeks to just kind of be able to kind of put it all together.
And then I guess in my own experience, what surprised me the most, and that was actually on the test day, you need to prepare for the unexpected. What we faced on that accreditation last October, it was not something we had seen before. It is not a standard case like the AFM, but you need to be able to apply the techniques, the tools that you have trained for during your preparation. But then you need to be able to flip it around and use it in a different way. So, so I actually like the test format, that you really need to be prepared for real life situations, because that is what it is in reality.
And that's the feedback I get. I know somebody, the way they prepared is they were doing a financial modeling World Cup, all the cases. And they said that really helped them because you get a wide variety and you get thrown stuff that you don't traditionally see when you're just building a standard model per se. And so it helped them, be able to use things in different ways, I guess. All right. What's your favorite Excel shortcut? What's that one you're going to tell us about?
Yeah, see, that's actually a difficult question, because, I mean, to me, we use proprietary tools, and I actually like the one where I get the formula walker up and running the fastest. And to me, that's control 1. But I also know that differs from every team member, because the shortcuts are dynamic. So it's not a standard Excel.
You have some kind of a quick access toolbar type thing within the tool, and control 1 launches a set of commands.
Yeah.
Of the standard ones, you have a favorite you can share?
It's probably control page down. So really strip through the model quite quickly.
Yes, that one, I think any modeler who has a long model has used many a times. Control down, control up, quickly trying to move between the model.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. What is the number 1 lesson over your career that you've learned that's helped you the most?
The number 1 lesson, that be nice to people. I know it's not an Excel answer, but that is the most important one.
I love the answer. I've had other people say empathy before, right? The world could use more kindness. It's good in business. It's good in life.
Exactly.
I love the answer myself. All right. So one more Excel question. What's the most kind of unique or fun thing you've done with Excel in your personal life? Build a model for, or done something crazy? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, but I'm probably going to give you a slightly boring answer here. I think it goes back to my own personal budget file. I would say it's a very fancy one, but it's very important and very dear to me. Where I used all my tips and tricks to make sure that everything runs like I like to have.
And I have to ask, how good are you at following it? Because I did budgeting and forecasting for a living, but I was terrible at doing my own budgeting.
Yeah. Someone once told me that money does not have any real value until you actually use it.
There are some people that never use it and just hoard it, but that's another story. I like it. All right. So rapid fire. Here's how this works. We're looking for yes or no. You can't say it depends. I will add one little caveat. On one of them, you can plead the fifth if you really don't want to answer, and we'll just move on. You get one of those, but that's it. And so it's yes or no on all of them. And then at the end, we'll let you elaborate on one or two, because I recognize every single one of these has nuance. But if you say it depends to all of them, it doesn't make for very good listening. So you
Yep.
ready?
Understood?
Circular references, yes or no?
No, thank you.
VBA.
Yes, simple VBA.
Okay. Do you prefer a horizontal model all in one sheet, vertical all in one sheet, or horizontal, like lots of sheets for your schedules?
I'm not sure how to address that with a yes or no, but it depends. It's usually a combination depending on the case.
Yeah, so you go with a hybrid, a mix. That's if I'm doing FP&A, it's a mixed. If I'm doing a simple 3-statement, it's a vertical. I get it. Excel dynamic arrays. Should we be using it among the models? Yes or no?
Yes.
What about fully dynamic models?
No, not yet.
I would tend to agree. External workbook links.
No, thank you.
Yeah, that's usually a pretty easy one for most people. Named ranges, yes or no?
No.
All right. Do you follow a formal standards board like SMART or FAST? Or maybe Deloitte has one that you use for your modeling.
We apply the FAST principles.
Should financial modelers learn Python in Excel?
Yes.
What about Power Query?
Yes, I think they should.
Power BI?
Some should.
Okay. This is the million-dollar question. Will Excel ever die?
Not before I retire.
I had someone say yes, they just hope it's not their lifetime. So similar.
Simple as that.
Will AI build the models for us in the future?
Not fully, but it would help us.
Okay. Do you believe financial models are the #1 corporate decision-making tool?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And then what's your lookup function of choice? Which formula do you like?
I'm a bit old school, I would say, so I'm stuck with index match. That works for me.
I figured you're going to say index match. What about index X match?
That also works, but if I had to do it myself, I would probably do the index match.
I finally started switching to X match, and I'm trying to get to use it more. I usually do X lookup, but it's been tough to switch to X match.
I mean, that goes back to the same fact that we spoke about earlier on, that every modeler has his or her own style, and it's difficult to get a new style.
Agreed. Like I don't know if you know Jeff Robinson. He's in the UK. He's a modeler, runs an investment business now. And he said, I've trained thousands of people, and over my careers, I've reviewed models. Every so often I'll see a model where I could tell I've trained the person, because they kind of have that footprint. Like everybody has a style. And that's why we started the show by saying it's art and science. If you don't follow the science, it's just messy painting. It's the modern stuff that you look at, have no idea what they're doing. But once you add that science, there's always still an art component to it.
For sure. And every time we get a model into the team, it's even though we don't know who actually built it, we can see who trained it, whether it was someone from Deloitte, or whether it was someone from an investment bank, or someone from one of the other big fours. It's an art, and we have different art styles.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you got all of them different, have little things they emphasize in the training, and you can kind of pick up, okay, they learn from here, or they learn from there. Or I've started to see that more and more as I dive more and more into the modeling world with the podcast and things. So any advice, kind of final advice you would offer to our audience to help them be a better modeler?
Yeah, I would for sure look into the more formal training that you can do. It's available, it's out there. We already spoke about some of it. And if you don't have any experience, that's a great place to start. And it also shows commitment if you want to go into financial modeling, that you have actually done some of these training sessions. It could also be others than the ones we spoke about, but that you show commitment, do that training. I mean, it's out there, and it's not that difficult to get started.
And then if our audience wants to learn more about you or get in touch with you, what is the best way to do that?
Feel free to connect with me for LinkedIn. I'm happy to get those invitations.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Morten. It's been a real pleasure to have you on the show. I've enjoyed it, and thanks for sharing, what you're doing with your team. I think it's great that you've invested that time for each of them to do the training and to level up their skills, because it's not something you always get, from companies. And so I think that's fabulous you're doing that, and really enjoyed chatting with you today.
Thank you for having me, Paul. I also enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Financial Modelers Corner was brought to you by the Financial Modeling Institute. This year, I completed the Advanced Financial Modeler certification, and it made me a better financial modeler. What are you waiting for? Visit FMI at www.fminstitute.com/podcast and use code podcast to save 15% when you enroll in one of the accreditations today.